Well, hi everybody, what's shaking today? Welcome to today's episode. I thought I'd take a few minutes and do a friendly comparison between Massey Ferguson and the Green Bastard, aka a Massey 1805 and a Steiger Bearcat Series 1. Now guys, I made a similar video to this one about a year and a half or 2 years ago about this and my old John Deere 7520. And let me give you a little disclaimer right now. I'm not saying I like one or the other of these better than one or the other, because they're 45 to 48-year-old tractors. There's nothing great or terrible about either one. They're just old dinosaurs. All you John Deere guys came out of the woodwork with that 7520 video talking about sound guard cabs and power shift, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. Those are great things. The 7520 had neither of those, but whatever. We're comparing apples to apples. A 1974 Bearcat against a 1975 Massey 1805. Let's get started. Now guys, I thought I'd start right from the front of these tractors and work my way back, and we'll try and do a friendly comparison on absolutely all the important parts of what these things have to offer, which by today's standards isn't much, but it's something. So right off the bat, front of the tractor, what do we got? We got a pair of 3208 cats. Now this did not come stock with a factory 3208. It had a factory 3160 in it. 6 to 1/2 dozen the other guys. That's the same engine. So that being said, there's no comparison there because they're exactly the same. Now I have used both of these tractors. You watch a few videos back, you could see me pulling my chisel plow with the Bearcat. I was able to get out and pull the chisel plow with the 1805, but then I got rained out doing that too. So I can tell you this from personal experience, they both pull exactly the same. There's really no difference in them. Okay, so engines are the same, they pull the same. Let's move back a notch. Transmissions. The Steiger has what I believe is to be an Eaton Fuller 10-speed. 5 gears high, 5 gears low. The Massey has a 3-speed with a standard overdrive as well as a high-low. So you got 10 gears here, 12 gears here. Do I think one's better than the other? Not really. Far as I can see, I mean, you got 2 extra gears in this one, but so I mean, there's a positive there. But at the same time, you got an old truck 10-speed here that you can basically find in any boneyard. Transmissions for these are getting a little bit harder to find, so you know, you got to kind of take that in with it. If you're not doing things you shouldn't be with it, the transmission probably shouldn't go out. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know. Good enough there. Now let's move down. Axles. Now if we peer up under the Massey here, they have their own home-built heavy-duty axles. I've never had any trouble with these axles. They seem to work great for me. Steiger's got a great big heavy-duty axle. I don't know if this is a Rabbit axle or a Steiger axle. One major difference is that these have these outer planetaries, I believe. Again, I'm not a scholar when it comes to these Steiger tractors. I bought this because I wanted to save it. I don't know, that doesn't mean I know a ton about it. But, so that being said, obviously the Massey doesn't have that. It's just a shaft, stub, hub, whatever. So guys, again, not saying I like one better than the other, but this axle's got different qualities than this axle does. Now, with that being said, Bearcat 2 had Massey axles under it. I'm not saying anything about anything, but I am saying that these axles were good enough for the second series of this tractor. So, you know, just a little food for thought there. Now, let's see, we're moving back. Let's check out cabs. Okay guys, so on the 1805, we got one door. Most tractors of this vintage only had one door. You got one door on the commander side here. Now we step up in the cab. It's a fairly nice seat. Now granted, I have new headliner, some new cab foam in here, stuff on the floor. Steering wheel's easy to get to. It'd be nice if it had tilt, but don't mind that, I unplugged it. But it doesn't have tilt. All my controls are readily available. Reverse 1, 2, 3, standard overdrive, high range, low range. And not to mention, you could have a party in this cab. There's plenty of room. Window space is good. Speaking of windows, you can open them. Nice. Nice. Got a nice little flow of air. Nice. Easily accessible controls, as any tractor of this vintage would have. So, this tractor cab definitely has some pluses. There's a lot to, now again, this is 70s technology, so not bad, not bad. I've ridden in this tractor for hours and hours and hours, and it's not a bad riding tractor. The cab is very quiet too, which I know I do have my floor and foam and everything in here, but I can run this tractor all day long, still hear my radio out of two crappy little speakers. Okay guys, inside the cab of the mighty Steiger, you got a commander side door, you got a vice commander side door. That's pretty cool. That's not something most tractors don't have. That you just get one, and that's you don't get any options. That's all there is to it. Air vents right in your face, perfect place for them. Easy to see controls. Now, hydraulics are back here. 3-point, 1 outlet, 2 outlet. Not the end of the world. And if you're just reaching back here, I mean, they're not the same length, so you'll know what you're doing. Not a big deal. Gauges are easy to see. Again, no tilt steering. And we got the 10-speed, so down here by your feet, you got reverse. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Shift it into the other range. Another reverse. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's fine and dandy. This tractor is very, it's laid out pretty well, I think. Throttle, nothing bad about that. Downside, this cab is about 2/3 the size of that cab. Also, now I can't confirm or deny this yet because I don't have any cab foam in here. I still have yet to get a cab kit for this tractor, which I will do. But this sucker's loud. And I know there's some vents that let noise in. There's a lot of things going on here that let noise in. But this cab is extremely loud. Still very well built, no question about that. Definitely not as big as the 1805 cab. Most tractors of this age didn't have a cab the size of the 1805 cab. That was one of the few things that were really great about that tractor. Vision is good. 0 of the windows open. You can't do, if you want air, you got the doors. And that. You don't have any options to open any windows because you can't. There's not available. So, again, you decide which cab you think you would like better. And, it is what it is. Let's talk about sheet metal. Let's look at the Steiger frame here first. This thing is built, and she's pretty stout. That's, I don't know, 1/2 inch. I don't know, pretty big. Fenders are stout. The sheet metal on this thing is stout. Everything is, like I say, this thing's 3/8, 1/2 inch, more than that, whatever. Pretty good amount of metal on this entire tractor. Now over to the Massey. Also, it's a little bit thinner. This is maybe 3/8 or 1/4, I don't know. You'd have to ask my wife how my measuring skills are. But again, this thing's fairly stout. The hood's a little bit, well, I guess I'm not going to say that. The hood is pretty much the same on either one. They're both the same metal. They're heavy enough. Staircase is pretty thick. Nice welded fenders. Big, heavy door. The rear end of the tractor, it's got this plate over top, but again, for the sides, for the rear end housing, you've got the same size thickness of gauge of metal as what you've got under the hood. Let's talk about hydraulics. The hydraulics are on Massey Ferguson go as follows. See that pump over there? That controls all the auxiliary hydraulics. See that, how it's hooked to belts? That is less than favorable. That one controls steering and transmission lubrication. That one controls auxiliary hydraulics. We're going to just concentrate on auxiliary hydraulics. both tractors turn, they both turn just fine, but auxiliary hydraulics is where we're gonna pay attention here. So there is, on most of these 1805s, not mine because I still have my handy dandy shaft I built in here, which is taking away all the troubles I've ever could dream I'd have with this thing. But in a lot of cases, these belts come out of alignment. These get worn out easier when they're not perfectly aligned. See, with my adjustable shaft, I can adjust that to however I want, lay a straight edge in there. My belts are never wrong. They just work. I've never had a trouble with this. I've had this for going on 2 years now, and I built that shaft for it right away. Zero troubles. But again, that's still a poor setup. Make no mistake about that. Let's look at the Steiger. Yes, that is a nice hydraulic pump mounted to the front of this engine like they're supposed to be. So the setup on the Steiger is probably more favorable. Now, make no mistake, the hydraulics on my Massey work just fine, but a lot of people have had a lot of trouble with those, and for good reason. I mean, that's just kind of asking for bad things to happen. The Steiger stuff is pretty hard to beat. It's as far as that goes. It's hooked right in line. I mean, the only way that pump is not going to spin is if you break all the bolts, and I hope you don't do that. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth. It's easy to change belts on the Massey, but if you don't have to, I mean, there's that. Don't mind me, guys. I'm just kind of wandering around here. So let's take a look at the back of these tractors. You know, where the business end of any major size tractor is really going to be. What's one of the most important things a tractor of this size is supposed to do, guys? Pull. That is one hell of a drawbar. You'll pull this tractor in half before you pull that drawbar out from under there. 3-point hitch. Now, granted, I don't use this 3-point hitch ever. It's what, category 3 3-point hitch. Strong enough, that's fine. Got my 3 hydraulic outlets back here. So, I mean, in the back of this tractor, there you have it. It's pretty easy to see things. If all this 3-point hitch and crap wasn't on here, you could see the drawbar from inside the cab, I believe. Don't hold me to that because I can't tell you that. I'm not taking all that off to check. But very well built, very strong, lots of metal. That's what you got. Now the back of the Steiger. Also, this is a massive drawbar. You're going to pull this tractor in half before you hurt that. Now, one thing this does have, it's got a swinging availability. That one you probably could. It's got some pins in there. I'm not messing with that. I'm not messing with this either. It is what it is. Now let's look at these 3-point arms. Look at the size of those things. You could mount a crane on this thing and lift barns. I mean, you're just not going to hurt that. That is really, really stout. That thing is well built. Again, lots of heavy metal back here. This thing was meant to do one job, and that's not break. As a testament to its age, it's definitely held up very, very well. Back of the Steiger. Hydraulic tank. That's a fine place for it. I mean, ain't hurting anything. Easy to get to. Fuel, again, easy to get to. I like that. On the old Massey. Hydraulic tank. Right there. Right on top of the engine. Maybe not the best place for that to be, because, I mean, it seems like that'd be an easy way for a leak to appear. You got a lot of hot going on right there. I could see how these could, and there's a mountain of hoses in there. I could see where that could possibly cause you to have a fire. Fuel tank right on the back of the cab. Some people hate it. Doesn't bother me one way or the other. It's easy to get to. You know, it works fine for me. It's practical for what I do. All right, everybody. I guess let's talk about clutches and drivetrain. This tractor, you have engine bolted directly to transmission, which is fine. Nothing to break in the middle. However, Steiger has a disc brake, which doesn't work. Drive shaft divorce transfer case. Transfer case kind of turns with the tractor when you're turning it. So I mean, that's kind of cool. It does work pretty good. It's practical. If you want to put brakes on this, it's easy to get to. If you can find parts, I am going to make parts that will work on this. And again, I think changing the clutch on this, it wouldn't be the worst job ever. I mean, I think you could probably unbolt that transmission, build you a little rail system in the cab, because the cab floor pulls out. Just ease everything back. Yeah, it's going to take you a little longer, but again, nothing that's going to set the world on fire as far as being difficult. The Massey kind of shines here. I put a clutch in this when I first bought it, and then I put another one in it because it had an oil leak from the little hydraulic lines in there. That's another story for another time. But with that being said, there's not a ton of room in there, but there's room in there. I can get my body up in there, pull this shaft, which takes 10 minutes for this shaft. You can't get the other one out in 10 minutes, but this one. Pull the bracket, pull those bolts, and like I said, I've had the clutch in and out of this tractor in 3 hours. And no special tools required, just one special person. Now guys, I'm going to do this the best I can. The transmission and transfer case on the old classy Massey here are married. They're married like an old couple. They don't like each other much. They leak all over the place, but at the end of the day, you know, they're hooked together and they'll deal with it. This has a disc brake way back there that you can't see, and I'm not going to bother to try and show it to you at the moment. Also, parts are hard to come by for that. Doesn't work very good. It'll stop the tractor. Don't try to stop 25,000 pounds of anything behind it more than once. Well guys, I think that is going to do it for me today. I hope you enjoyed my friendly comparison of two apples to apples type tractors built in the 70s. I think they're comparative to each other. That's just me talking though. I might be partial to one, might not be partial to one. You decide. Again, thanks for watching everybody. We'll see you next time. Uh-oh. What the hell did I just do? Stay tuned.